somebody was saying, oh, put your money where your mouth is. Initially, I would be a board member. I didn't have money to invest. Once I was in a position where I could invest money, then I had to do that. Because one of the things that I do for startups is help them raise money. So I can't go to an investor and say, oh, you should put money. I'm just getting my stuff for free. So I evolved into putting money as well. It's also more leverage. I'm getting the most out of I'm helping them and I'm putting money. So that's a model that's, I think, it's interesting. But in terms of people looking at getting into angel investing, I think if you have particular expertise in an industry, a really great way of getting your feet wet in angel investing is who are the entrepreneurs in that industry, in that vertical, can you be helpful to them? Somebody also mentioned this, which is, I think, very true. Even if you don't end up investing, it really pays off to try to be helpful. Some of my best deals have come from people that I've turned down. I've turned them down, but I've tried to be helpful to them, and then I've gotten them to introduce me to their friends, and then the friends have to be somebody that I do want to work with. It is very time-consuming. So, for example, going back to these boards, before I'll join the board, I'll usually spend a full month where I'm meeting once or twice a week, helping this company, getting to know them. I mean, it's a huge investment of time. But I'd rather do that and be sure that because it's one thing to make an investment, and worst case, if it doesn't work out, and when I say it doesn't work out, if you find that you're not as compatible with the people, it might still be a good investment. You don't need to be as active. If you join a board, you make a commitment, you're working with them, like it's like a marriage to a certain extent. And so you want to make sure that that works. The other thing is what I found is entrepreneurs really appreciate that. I go and say, let me help you. And just jump in and helping. And after a while, they're like, okay, can we formalize this? We don't want you to go away at any given time. Which also, to a certain extent, it's a good negotiating point to be in because you've shown some of the value that you bring to the table. What I try to do is try to balance having, usually, like I said, like maybe 1 or 2 active boards. Maybe I'll have 2 or 3 where I'm not as active. Maybe it also depends on the time. Like I'm on the board now where I've been for 6 years. Well, my first year I was spending a day a week. Then the second year I was spending, maybe a day every other week or 3. Now the company is at 500 people, so I have a quarterly board meeting. So I try to balance having some that are just getting started, some that are bigger, and then investments where I'm making a bigger commitment time and less commitment time. But I don't think you need to have one model. I think there's one solution fits all. I don't think the one comment I would say, I've heard lots of great tips, but you can't be cookie cutter about it. And the analogy I would use, so I'm a sailor, and I was trying to improve my sailing, so I brought a bunch of coaches. So the first coach would come and say, oh, when the wind is strong, ease the sail, pull the tiller, do this, do that, and sure enough, I'm going faster. Then the next guy comes on board, and he says, when the strong pull, he would contradict the first guy, but in a combination, not everything is contradictory, a different combination of things where he's letting the sail, the other one is pulling it, but he's doing something different, moving the weight. It would also work for him. And I was really frustrated, and I never got it. I just don't have the talent. I don't have the feel for it. But what I ended up realizing is, the athletes are the ones that really can piece the little pieces together. And I think angel investing is the same. Find the little pieces that work for you. And I also, that's a little bit of what I look in the entrepreneurs that I try to work with, is those that you can tell them and give them advice, try to help them, and they make it their own. You don't want people who either don't listen to, or the flip side is you don't want them who are trying to follow you blindly. Like, well, you told me to pull that sail in, and it's not working. It's like, well, things are a little more subtle than that. So I think I have one more minute here. So one last thing. It's definitely a lot of fun. I just want to mention a couple of things that I do that it's both the most fun and I think also most valuable for entrepreneurs. So once a quarter, I organize a lunch for maybe 4 or 5 of my entrepreneurs, and I pick a topic and I try to stay in touch with all of them. And I know that this is a topic that these particular individuals are struggling with. So that, for example, a few months ago, I did a monetization launch, and I had different people who for some was working, something else was not working, and I get them to talk to one another and help one another. And I get so much pleasure out of seeing them help one another. It's so much better than me trying. What I find is that a lot of value that I bring is not just me telling them, but me connecting them with the right people that can help them. So anyway, that's it.
just need a chair to seat him less short. Yeah, exactly. That's good. The chair, the same height as
Yes, please get your short VC jokes out quickly. We'll run out before the end of the session. So I'm Dave McClure, and I guess I'm supposed to be helping moderate this panel of distinguished VCs like Matthew.
Greg,
I'm sorry, excuse me, and David Hornick. Hopefully I'll learn the names before the end of the session.
Don Hornick.
Doesn't work. So we don't have a lot of time. Let's
you have 15 minutes.
We have 15 minutes, which is a ton of time. So
Yeah.
we'll get all of it. So I'd like to maybe cover 3 topics, and if you guys want to jump into others. But one is, how do VCs decide who or what to invest in, which I think is relevant from the legal perspective. What startups need at different stages, and how investors help or don't help. Because I think there's very different models from what YC does to what angels do to what VCs do. And then maybe why or how do startups progress to the next level, or do they not progress to the next level? Do they get off the train as we look at those? So we try to focus on those. So how do you guys decide who or what to invest in? What's your sort of parameters, and maybe distinguish that as different from what angels might look at?
You want me to go first? All right. Well, first of all, a slight disclaimer here. I've heard the VC community referred to several times today, and I've heard that comment throughout my entire career as a VC. I got to tell you, there is no VC community. I've never met it. It's like saying the international community. The international community is as diverse as the VC. You got terrorists in the VC community, and you got Mother Teresa, a whole bunch of them.
Are you saying that Mother Teresa is a good or bad thing, or the terrorists are good or bad thing?
Well, I'll leave that to the listeners. But no, in all seriousness, I'm going to speak from the perspective of Sequoia here for a few minutes, a very short few minutes here. We're company builders. That's our model. It's not every VC's model. Some VCs make a boatload of money picking stock. There's nothing wrong with that. We're just not smart enough to pick stock. So what we do is we look for market opportunities, and we look for starting teams that we can work with over the course of sometimes many years, more than we'd like, to build real businesses. And because of that, we have some pretty specific requirements going in. Teams are important, don't get me wrong, but markets are absolutely critical. And it's like air and water. I need them both to live, but I need air a whole lot more over the next few minutes. For us, market is the oxygen. If you don't have market, you can't make a company work. And I can come up with examples where a really smart team did a random walk for a while and came up and built a really great business. But in our experience, the vast majority of really great companies started out focusing on a really great business, a great market. Now, they may have, over time, evolved in how they approach that market, but the market was there. The other thing we look for, quite frankly, is in the team the DNA to build what we think is a quality business. So folks that understand how you think about hiring, how you think about spending money, folks who have the ability to tell the story in a very efficient manner. This is very important, by the way, because founders learn, and I was one a long time ago, very quickly, you are always selling. You are always convincing somebody of something. It started with yourself, but then your co-founders, your investors, bankers, lawyers, employees, executives, it's a mix. And so teams that can't tell the story very quickly have trouble to coin. People say, well, geez, you're always looking for the polished pitch. You know what? No, we're not. We don't care about the PowerPoint, quite frankly. We care about the story. So folks who come in who are authentic, understand the market, are talking about a really big business opportunity in the market, and can do it in a small number of words, get our attention pretty quickly.
Mother Teresa, do you have any comments?
I care about the people. No, I mean, look, I think it's a perfectly reasonable comment that the venture community is different. I think this is probably a good example of that, which is emphasis on market, emphasis on people. I think August has always been about focusing on investing in people. Now, that doesn't mean that you come in and, wow, I love you, and you're approaching and you're doing something really stupid. So, but I love you, so I'll fund you. I mean, it's a mix of things, right? You can have plenty of water and not so much air. You can have plenty of air and not so much water, and it just depends on which of those things you're sort of looking for. So I'd say that from where we sit, Now, the truth is, what Greg describes is really about the people, which is that they're good salespeople, that they understand the market, that they're chasing something interesting, and they can describe it in an interesting and meaningfully large way. And, so we would sit and look and say, well, those are great people. Now, the question is this the killer market, right? And I think that from where we sit, you say, okay, these are really interesting, smart people that are doing something that may or may not succeed, but we think that they're going to approach it in a smart and interesting way, and so we'll back them, heading on a path that we don't think will be particularly straight.
Can I ask you a quick question? Both of you. How many of your startups are not previously successful entrepreneurs or didn't come from Stanford, Princeton, Yale, Harvard, MIT? Or the percentage, roughly speaking?
I don't know what the percentage is, but more than half are neither repeat entrepreneurs, nor do they come from terribly great schools. In fact, oftentimes we find folks come from very surprising walks of life. We find really fascinating, great software developers that never really had a technical education. Odd ducks oftentimes are the most interesting founders to invest in.
Yeah, no, I think that, again, the fact that we don't know is probably an indicator that we don't worry about that too much, because if we did, we would certainly know, wow, this one's an outlier or whatever. There's a little bit of the myth of the serial entrepreneur, right? I mean, the wildly successful serial entrepreneurs often end up out here. They don't end up building the next great thing. I mean, so what we're looking for is people who are engaged and engaging and are approaching something in a way that they can describe in really interesting and facile way, and that is what's valuable.
But don't you guys see yourself as sort of top shot? I mean, I would actually say that you've built a brand where you can take advantage of that to some extent, and that you do have the opportunity to deal flow to select the best-in-class entrepreneurs because they're coming to you.
It may be true, I don't know, and it's very flattering if it is. It doesn't matter. Okay? It does not matter. What we find oftentimes is founders surprise us all the time. They come to us with ideas about building businesses in the market, and we look at their background in the paper, and it's not obvious to us why they understand that market. And 5 minutes in, we understand that what's unique about their business is their unique view of the market. And as long as we can get convinced that the whole world is going to view that market the same way in 2 or 3 years, it's a highly disruptive opportunity.
I think that the interesting thing is that really the venture business is a volume business, and I don't mean that like we're going to fund a pile of things. But if you don't see a lot of opportunities and meet a lot of people, you won't find those individuals. Won't otherwise find those individuals or opportunities and say, "Holy cow! I would have had no idea that this is an interesting opportunity." And we've heard this today a lot, saying, to be a successful angel investor, you have to know a lot of people and get to see and hear a lot of opportunities. And I think that's certainly true for us as well, right? I mean, there are very few successful people who say, I only heard of 4 companies this year. I funded 2 of them, and they were awesome. Right? Whoever those people are, I want their lives, but that's not really the venture.
All my children.
Well, let me put a finer point on that. Just in the Menlo Park office at Sequoia, we see thousands and thousands of business plans a year. More, easily 5, 6, 7,000 business plans, and we make between 15 and 25 early stage investments every year. And we see an awful lot.
But don't be discouraged.
We really do read those emails.
Because those 15 are awesome.
No,
it's true. It's totally true.
So do you guys see a difference in what startups need based on whether they're coming in at the Y Combinator stage, or they're coming in from an angel investor perspective, or where you guys are coming in? And let's assume that maybe from the Y Combinator stage, it's a 25 to 50K sort of number in a certain amount of time. From an angel investor perspective, maybe it's a 250 to 500K amount in a certain amount of time. And from your guys, let's say medium investment, 2 to 5 million. Are there differences in ways that you evaluate the companies that go to each of those options? Or are all of those doors available to someone who's a really amazing entrepreneur?
I think it just depends on what you're trying to build, what the opportunity is, how fast you want to approach it, right? I mean, any of these things, I heard earlier the comment that venture investors, there's no such thing as too early for a venture investor, because if we really like it, then we'll do it. And I just don't know that that's true, right? I mean, but again, if you're purely investing on a great person, you say, well, man, I love you so much. I know people who got engaged after 6 weeks, right? So, I mean, there's some possibility of doing that, right? But the likelihood of that happening is 6 weeks.
I would propose on first date.
All right, well, so there you go.